only use 10% of your brain. The bulk of your neurons are relatively silent for long stretches of time, waiting to spring into action when activated. Let's turn information to knowledge and knowledge to wisdom. Join me on the journey to seek enlightenment and vanquish ignorance. A jelly-like organ that weighs around 3 pounds is considered the most complex organ not only in the human body but in the whole universe. Its extraordinary capabilities are only possible due to more than 100 billion neurons that are wired like a jungle. Each neuron is a building block, and its significance depends upon its connections to other neurons. For example, a single brick is not significant until it is laid with other bricks to build a wall. Each neuron has 3 major parts: dendrites, the cell body or soma, or the axons. Dendrites are the parts of the neuron that receive information from other neurons. The cell body or the soma contains everything a cell needs to stay alive and healthy. The axon is the main branch that grows from cell body to the axon terminal. Each neuron is connected to its neighbors by its dendrite and axon terminals. Thousands of neurons are connected to each other to make a neural pattern. These neural patterns represent memories, images, and thoughts. The signal passes through each neuron like an electrical current. This current is produced by sodium and potassium ions present in each neuron. Let's look at the system, how it works. A combination of electrical and chemical signals allows communication within and between neurons. When a neuron becomes activated, it passes an electrical signal from the cell body down the axon to its end, where chemical messengers called neurotransmitters are stored. The signal releases certain neurotransmitters into the space between the neuron and the dendrite of a neighboring neuron. That space is called a synapse. As the concentration of a neurotransmitter rises in the synapse, neurotransmitter molecules begin to bind with receptors embedded in the membranes of the two neurons. The release of a neurotransmitter from one neuron can activate or inhibit a second neuron. If the signal is activating or excitatory, the message continues to pass further along that particular neural pathway. If it is inhibitory, the signal will be suppressed. The neurotransmitter also affects a neuron that released it. Once the first neuron has released a certain amount of the chemical, a feedback mechanism controlled by that neuron's receptors instructs the neuron to stop pumping out the neurotransmitter and start bringing it back into the cell. This process is called reabsorption or reuptake. Enzymes break down the remaining neurotransmitter molecules into smaller particles. What happens when the system falters? Brain cells usually produce levels of neurotransmitters that keep senses, learning, movements, and moods perking along. But in some people who are severely depressed or manic, the complex system that accomplishes this is skewed. For example, receptors may be oversensitive or insensitive to a specific neurotransmitter, causing the response to its release to be excessive or inadequate. Or a message might be weakened if the originating cell pumps out too little of a neurotransmitter, or if an overly efficient reuptake mops up too much before the molecules have the chance to bind to the receptors on other neurons. Any of these system faults could significantly affect mood. So how many kinds of neurotransmitters are there? Scientists have identified many different neurotransmitters. It is believed few of the neurotransmitters that play a role in depression are acetylcholine enhances memory and is involved in learning and recall. Serotonin helps regulate sleep, appetite, and mood, and inhibits pain. Research supports the idea that some depressed people have reduced serotonin transmission. Low levels of a serotonin byproduct have been linked to a higher risk for suicide. Norepinephrine constricts blood vessels, raising blood pressure. It may trigger anxiety and be involved in some types of depression. It also seems to help determine motivation and reward. Dopamine is essential to movement. It has influenced motivation and plays a role in how a person perceives reality. Problems in dopamine transmission have been associated with psychosis, a severe form of distorted thinking characterized by hallucinations or delusions. It is also involved in the brain's reward system, so it is thought to play a role in substance abuse. Glutamate is a small molecule believed to act as an excitatory neurotransmitter and to play a role in bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Lithium carbonate, a well-known mood stabilizer used to treat bipolar disorder, helps prevent damage to neurons in the brains of rats exposed to high levels of glutamate. Other animal research suggests that lithium might stabilize glutamate reuptake, a mechanism that may explain how the drug smooths out the highs of mania and the lows of depression in the long term. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, GABA, is an amino acid that researchers believe acts as an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It is thought to help suppress anxiety. Let's talk about neural network and pathways. If we take example of visual system in relation to neural connections, the eyes are not connected to the brain to start with, and the nerve cells in the eyes has to grow its connections to the right part of the brain. If it is connected to the temporal lobe, the system won't work, as that part processes the audio, not the video. The wiring is formed in such a clever way that it connects to the right part of the brain. The pathways are like highway code, directing the axons in the right direction. There is a period of overproduction of pathways that needs some pruning. This process goes on over a lifetime. The famous concept, use it or lose it. First, it goes into a phase when it is overproducing the neurons and synapses. And over time, through experience and learning what's required and what's not, the pruning process begins. The brain prepares itself for all types of situations and circumstances to survive. With this ability, we as humans can learn to speak any language, live in any part of the world, from beautiful green plains to sandy deserts to thousands of meters above sea level. Even in extreme weather conditions, from minus 50 degrees to plus 50 degrees Celsius. Different types of foods like grains, vegetations to meats. This is only possible due to the long period of development. As an example, when someone goes for a hiking trip, they carry all sort of stuff with them, thinking I might need it. But they only use the items which are required. And when they go for the second time, they know what they will possibly require and won't bother with the stuff they won't need. Why? Because it is not efficient. At the end of the day, they will have to carry all the extra weight that will drain their energy, so it is not wise to do that. Similarly, brain covers all the areas and ready for any possibility. It doesn't know where you will be born, what language you will speak, what food you will eat, what temperature or area you will be living in. But then depending upon the signals it receives, it learns which networks are required and need to be kept for future and which ones I need to get rid of. As a matter of fact, the brain is only 2% of the body weight, but it consumes 20% of the energy, and the bulk of that energy is consumed at the synapses. As all the synapses require energy to survive, and it is not efficient to keep hold of additional wiring that is not required, so the pruning process begins on the concept of use it or lose it. And finally, there is a myth that you only use 10% of your brain. The bulk of your neurons are relatively silent for long stretches of time, waiting to spring into action when activated, but they're doing so to remain energy efficient. If you somehow triple the number of neurons activated at one time, the brain's oxygen needs would increase dramatically, perhaps using as much as your muscles would while doing strenuous activity like weightlifting and running. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. Also leave a comment down below to let me know what do you think of this video. Thank you.